The Why Me Project.
It has been brought to our attention that depending on the platform that you listen to, you can no longer hear some of our previous episodes.
Some of our favorite episodes.
Some of the ones where people would reach out and say, hey, listen, I can't believe that you talked to insert whatever name here.
And honestly, it makes us a little sad that you can't go back in time and have a listen because the stories were really incredible.
We reference a lot of times, we had a chance to talk with so-and-so in the past. And if you can't go back, then it's kind of just, So we wanted to bring some of those guests, some of those former guests back into the spotlight.
We're going to call it like a rerun, I think.
A Why Me Project rerun.
Do you remember those?
I do. Back in the day, or you used to throw the tape into the VCR and, we're dating ourselves.
We are, but a rerun was the opportunity to rewatch one of your favorite episodes. Now everything's so accessible. Well, we thought it was.
Yeah, exactly. So without further ado,
here's your Why Me Project rerun.
I am very excited to see where this half hour is going to go.
I am so very excited right now, as it's not often that we get to talk with someone that we've had conversations about throughout the year, as he's been quite visible when it comes to various conversations that have been happening mainstream.
He is an author, an artist, a writer, an actor. I'm pretty sure at some point he's going to cure the COVID. Lecrae, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, if I can figure out COVID, I'll bottle that up.
I'm buying.
Well, we like to ask the skill testing question because we never know where it's going to go. Lecrae, who are you and where did you come from?
My name is Lecrae. I am, an artist, activist, a public figure. More importantly, I'm a father and a husband, and I'm still trying to figure out where I came from. That's the question of the hour. We'll find out one day.
Born and raised where?
I was born in Texas, Houston, Texas. I was raised all over the place. So I got a little bit of California, a little bit of Denver, a little bit of Texas, Memphis, Atlanta, Georgia. So got a little bit of everything going on here.
So then if I ask the question, where does Lecrae call home, what would that answer be?
I would say Atlanta's home, yeah.
Was music the dream and where you wanted to go?
You know what? I always wanted to be an entertainer. I knew entertainment was the realm for me. I loved it since I could remember. So music was just one form of it. But I actually, originally loved acting. And I was into acting pretty heavily, but then music took over.
At what point did you realize then that you had not only the goal, the dream, but you had this amazing talent?
Man, you know what? I think I always had great supportive family members who would always tell me about my gifts and abilities. And so I knew the talent was there, but sometimes that's the frustrating part because you don't know what to do with it or how to best use it. So that was the tough part as a kid.
Sometimes when it's your parents or a family member saying that you have talent, it's just because they love you so much.
That's true as well.
Was there any other affirmation that helped you really realize that was a great direction for you to go?
I had a friend who passed away named Otis, and Otis would tell me all the time, he'd say, man, like, you are really talented at this, man. You just need to work on your songs because your songs are pretty trash, and that's really what he used. And then another friend of mine, Will, said, man, if you don't do this professionally, I don't know what you're thinking about doing. And that kind of confirmed it for me.
Would you consider that, or is there another one of those pivotal life moments, the come to Jesus moment, where you're like, Lecrae, this is where I either take the left road or the right road, but I have to make a choice?
The come to Jesus moment, or pivotal kind of transformational moment, was just feeling a sense of loneliness when I was in school and just wondering, man, what direction do I go in? And I was invited to a conference, and at this conference, I saw a world that I had never seen before. I saw people who looked like me, talked like me, dressed like me, but they had a hope that I didn't have, and I wanted that, and that was kind of the spiritual transformative moment for me.
When you were growing up, was God and faith a big part of those fundamental years?
No, I didn't really grow up in church. I'm more of a, kind of a West Coast kid, and it, extremely kind of free thinking, wherever the wind blows, type of mindset. And so that's just kind of the way that I saw the world. And my grandmother was the only Christian that I knew, so she kind of introduced me to God as a child. But then I didn't investigate till I got much older.
So you have friends who are pushing into you saying, Lecrae, you got to do this. You have this talent. You're trying to harness all of this talent that you have. Was there people that you were looking to musically that you're like, I want to be like, or I want to sound like, insert whoever that may be?
Yeah, I think as a kid, I really looked up to Snoop Dogg. I thought he was like one of the guy, you know what I mean, as a kid. And so I really looked up to him. And then, of course, Nas and Jay-Z, those are other individuals I looked up to growing up. So, they're heavyweights, but they're also, they're transcendent, and they did something bigger than that people thought they would do. And so I kind of looked up to them a lot.
When you were younger and you had dreams of becoming rap music was going to be the direction that you went, you're going to be a big and strong adult. Did you ever think that this is where you would be today?
No clue. I never would have ever imagined. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, I never would have dreamed it in a million years. It's been a blessing. It's not without its challenges, but it has been a blessing.
What is the biggest, or are you saying without its challenges, what has been some of those big challenges?
I think when you're younger, you don't have a family, you can kind of figure stuff out, you know what I mean? But when you're dealing with a wife and kids, or you're just responsible 24/7 for their shaping, and they're dependent on you. And so you can't just kind of wing it, when you've got people's lives involved. And, when you're traveling all the time, you're on the road, you're doing interviews, you can kind of wing that stuff because it's just kind of in your wheelhouse, but you can't wing being a father. You can't wing being a husband. So those, the career decisions make it challenging to stay consistent with those other areas of life that are more important.
You have this grandma who has this faith, and as you grow older, your faith continues to grow. Do you feel pressure in representing your faith in your music or representing quote-unquote Christian hip-hop?
I never felt like this huge burden. I did initially hey, when everyone was kind of like, hey, you're the guy, the Christian representative in the rap space, in the hip-hop space, I did feel a burden to be what everyone wanted me to be, and that was just a lot to carry because I didn't ask for that. Not so much with my grandmother, but probably more so for just like the Christian culture, who just had these expectations that I just knew I wasn't going to be able to live up to.
The funny thing is that I think Christians so badly want to put musical artists, whoever, up on pedestals. So whether it's yourself or, even somebody like Lauren Daigle, how then do you navigate having, people saying, oh, we want you to sound like this, or you're not, saying Jesus enough in your songs?
You have to come to a place where you realize that you have your own mission, and everyone's not going to agree with it, but people want to make their mission your mission, or their idea of what you should be, who you should be. And I talk about it a lot in my book, I'm Restored, just that oftentimes we're objectified. And we do that to public figures all the time. We want them to play the way we want them to play, to sing the way we want them to sing, and just be one-dimensional. And truthfully, we are dynamic people, and God has put us here for different reasons. And so we have to give people the freedom to follow the path that God has put them on.
You have a book that just came out October 12th. You were able to put together a 3-part narrative. You have music that also came out this year, all about the theme of restoration. And that obviously means that there's been a bit of a journey in your life. At what point did you realize that restoration was needed in your life?
Oh, man. Unfortunately, you kind of get back into a corner and you say, shoot, this is, I don't have any other choice. And I think for me, it was, November 1st, 2018, just waking up in a clinical depression and not knowing what to do about it. And it was kind of like I was just back into a corner. I've been pretty tough my whole life and just pushed my way through everything, suppressed it. But I think the weight of it all just kind of collapsed underneath me. And that's when I realized, okay, God, I need some restorative work done here. There's no other way around this. You can only run from your past and your issues for so long, and they just caught up with me.
What does that restoration, what does that working on yourself look like? Is it therapy? Is it, because I would think that you would utilize music as a form of therapy. How were you able to deal with that?
Yeah, it absolutely is a mixture of different things. I mean, obviously, music is a form of that, but I was to the place in my life where music had become a job. You're just doing it so much that it's not really this creative outlet. It's kind of like you're kind of playing a game and just writing stuff that will work instead of writing the most authentic version of everything. And so that's tough. But I think, it's holistic. It's all encompassing. It's not just one thing. It's not just therapy, which therapy was involved. It's not just prayer. It's not just, community relationships. It's just all encompassing. Medication, whatever meditation, people need to wrap their arms around all of those different things and find out what works best for them. And for me, it was, a lot of stopping, moving a million miles an hour and sitting still and having to deal with some things traumatic things that I dealt with in the past.
When it comes to you dealing with depression, a lot of conversations have been happening as of late with regards to mental health and removing the stigma of it. Did you find it hard to admit that you were going through a depression? Was there kind of that element of, not me, no, I'm Lecrae?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you deal with it mildly, there is that sense of pride. When it's major, which is what I experienced, you're done playing games because it's so debilitating and so crippling that it's not kind of a thing that you're I mean, you may want to hide it from the public, but there's just no way to hide from it. It's going to affect every aspect of your life. And for me to reveal it to the public, I just felt like, man, I don't ever want anybody to have to struggle with this privately and not know how they can be helped. There was somebody who made a YouTube video, or actually a pastor who made a sermon, and he was talking about what he experienced. And if he hadn't have said that, I don't know if I would have had anybody to relate to. I thought I was going crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's so easy to feel alone in those situations.
Yeah.
Acceptance is one of those big things. I mean, when you go to AA and accepting that, hi, my name is, and I'm an alcoholic, what was the reaction then to the people around you? Did they have any idea that, you were dealing with this?
Yeah, it was a mixture. Obviously there's some friends who are, all your friends love you, but they're not all equally gifted in how to navigate that. Yeah. So, that's the beauty of therapy, because you have a specialist who can really help target certain things. But, I'd liken it a lot to trying to lose weight. Maybe you're dealing with a health issue, and sure, you can talk to your friends about it, and then maybe they'll give you some moral support. Maybe they'll tell you a workout that they've been doing, but they don't know exactly the science behind how to, make sure your heart rate is at a certain place, or you're burning fat, or what exercises you need to do. So it's really helpful to talk to a specialist. My friends were there for me, and I had to be very gracious to them because they didn't know everything, and they didn't have all the right answers either.
How important was having your family there with you?
Oh, having family there was extremely important. You just need that moral support. If nothing else, just to have them say, hey, listen, I don't get it, but I'm here. That's the biggest thing that anybody can do is just be there. Just their presence is massive.
I'm Restored is available now, as Holly had mentioned. When people get the book, what do you hope that they're going to get from it?
I would just hope that people walk away saying, wow, I'm not alone, and that restoration is possible. It may not be transactional. It doesn't happen overnight. It's relational. It's a process, but the process is beneficial. And if you work at it, health and wellness is on the other side.
You said husband and father. You've been married for how long?
I've been married for 14 years. So we were kids having kids. I got with my wife. I was 18 years old when I laid eyes on her, and we've been besties ever since.
And then you got how many kids?
I got 3 kids.
And
2
they're
boys,
how old?
1 girl. 13, 11, and 9.
So when it comes to, whether it's sexual abuse or depression or PTSD or whatever that is, how hypervigilant did you find that you are when it came to you then being a father? Extremely.
Me being a father is, very, very important. Even as we speak, I'm sitting at a skate park talking to you all while my kids are practicing their moves. And I didn't want my day, which is, busy, to interrupt them being able to be kids and there to be consistency. I could have very easily said, hey, sorry, y'all, you just figure it out, go outside and play. But I said, no, let's take a ride and we'll interact in between, my free time. And so, yeah, but I more than anything, it's that sense of security and consistency that they know that I never knew. And I think that makes a big difference.
Because it was something that you never knew, do you feel that you really and truly want to make sure that you can be the best dad, that you can be almost as a way of kind of healing a part of yourself?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a mixture. Obviously you don't realize what you're doing. Oftentimes you're just doing it. You do know that you're fighting against what you didn't have, but at the same time, you're also there's some subconscious stuff in there, and some of it is not healthy. If I'm honest with you, some of it is you trying to prove that you're not your father, and that you're not going to make the mistakes that your father made. So you have to wrestle with that tension of just understanding, like, hey, listen, this is a whole new world, new life, new people. You don't have to put that weight on your shoulders. Just be a consistent, present father.
I mean, the life that you grew up in, the life that your kids are growing up in now, I'm assuming is very different. How important is it that your kids realize that, hey, this isn't how it always was, and how important is it that they then see where you came from?
Yeah, I think that's important. I try to do my best to remind them from time to time, just so that they don't take anything for granted. We're getting at that age where they need to be exposed to some different things that would help them see, like, oh, they're a little bit more insulated. By the time I was my oldest son's age, I was riding the city bus everywhere I wanted to go. You know what I mean? And so, it's important for me to help them understand that they're a part of a legacy and that they're part of a broken cycle, and to continue that process.
As a father, then, and with marches and protesting and everything that's going on, I mean, all over the world, but definitely down in the States, do you hide that, or is that something that you can share with your kids?
No, I definitely share it with my kids and want them to understand what's going on, want them to be aware, because, I'd rather them hear it from me than to kind of experience it outside of the house in some kind of jarring way. So, as much as we can talk through it, in a helpful and healthy way, I try to do it.
It's interesting because you're going through this personal journey of restoration, but then culturally there seems to be a huge shift in trying to correct things and restoration that way as well. When it comes to your music and your book, do you feel like it can also speak to the cultural restoration process?
I absolutely do. I think, overall, people just struggle with nuance, and they struggle with processing complicated things. And I think when we realize how complicated we are as human beings, and we deal with our own personal areas of grace and need for acceptance, then we can be a lot more gracious toward other people. And so I think, hearing one person's journey helps them understand. It kind of puts you in someone else's shoes, so that you can say, wow, what do I need to do, and how do I play my part in this grand tapestry going on out here?
Do they understand, or how we talk about making sure that your kids are aware of, but that because Dad, and you had mentioned you are a public figure, they may see things on social media, or they may see things in the news that is about you? Yeah.
We try to be pretty vigilant in keeping them off of social media and not allowing them to just kind of mindlessly absorb all those particular things. And so they'd be hard pressed to just find that type of information. Of course, I tell them and help them understand, but we try to protect them as much as possible of their perspectives of who I am and what I am in the world. I try to make sure to see things from their own perspective and experience me as I am, and not as the world may kind of talk about me. 'Cause, I mean, there's some stuff that they see, and some of it's kind of silly, and it's like, this article said you had a private jet, Daddy. Where's
my
that?
private jet?
Yeah, and I'm like,
where's my trust fund?
Yeah, I'm like, listen, guys, you can't believe everything you read on the internet. All right, let's rewind.
Oh, never mind. So I guess there goes my question on what's it like to have a private jet, Lecrae. Do they? I mean, we've had a chance. We've asked Toby this question, and a lot of other artists who have kids. Are they into your music, or do they just see you as dad?
My youngest one is actually into the music. My youngest son, he's a fan. He loves the music. My oldest son is like my critic. So I think in a lot of ways I represent him to the world. He's like, I can't have you out here looking crazy, Dad. You need to turn the bass up on this. You need to change your flow scheme on this. So he's a little more particular. My daughter, I'm definitely just dad to her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do they get to use you as like clout at all? Like, do you know who my dad is, so you can get first in line at church or something?
No. I tell them all the time, that I that was the reason why I wouldn't name my boys after me or anything like that, because I want them to be their own individual people and not have to live in my shadow. That's just a lot of pressure. It's pressure spiritually. It's pressure in a lot of different ways, and so it's just too much for their little souls to bear. So I try to leave that off. My daughter did get upset at me because I turned down Dancing with the Stars. She did get upset. She was like, why would you do that? And so
for good reason. That's a season I would watch. Well, I had a chance to watch your 3-part narrative, and I've got 2-part question here. Number 1, are we going to get a full-on documentary,
That's
perhaps,
a good question. Yeah.
coming up? Because watching just the 3 parts, I felt like there was so much more. I wanted to keep watching it, but it was over. So is there going to be one coming up?
Yeah, there will be. It'll be much more extensive and a little more detailed. So definitely, we have a production company that we started, and that was one of the first projects that we put out, and we're just kind of warming up. We did a music video, we did the video series, just kind of testing our capabilities, and so there's something a lot more extensive on the way.
Cool. Because I watched it, even as a female who's a person of color, who's from Canada, there were so many points I could really relate to. And it's almost as though your story can reach so many people that in some ways you might become a bit of a father figure to others. And now you have kind of that language to express, I went through childhood trauma, I did this. Do you feel the weight of that kind of pressure ever, or are you just happy to be able to have that story to share and to help others with the restoration journey that they're on?
You know what? Truthfully, I think so. I have ADD, right? ADD makes you impulsive. You just do stuff sometimes. You know what I mean? So I think for me, I'm like, let's do it. You know what I mean? You kind of you don't think about it all in the moment. You're just thinking about how freeing it is, and moving on to the next thing, and you're like, yeah, let's do it. I'll tell my whole story. I'd love to do that. And you're like, you don't even realize what you're doing in the moment. I think it's one of the ways God has like kind of, providentially blinded me from knowing the impact of certain things and not allowing the pressure to be too heavy on me. I just follow those passions and those impulses. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even know it had that kind of effect. And so sometimes it's good. Obviously, sometimes you do need to have a little more awareness. But in these moments, I'm just grateful that it does impact people.
You look at your musical career, and I mean, you work obviously closely with the 116 crew. You've worked with John Legend or Ty Dolla or B.O.B. Is there someone that you still would love to work with?
You know what? Now I'm like, there's only a couple like actual living legends around, like Stevie Wonder or, folks along in that caliber of artistic excellence that I think, it'd be awesome to do music with, just because you just were like, wow, I got to do that. And so I think for me, it's just being able to work with anybody who's iconic like that. I don't know what that would look like, but for me, that'd be awesome.
Well, this is the Why Me Project podcast, so we ask this question every time to get a feel for your Why Me moment. It could be in a valley or in a mountaintop, but a point in your life where you ask God, why me?
Ooh, my goodness. a point in my life. There's a bunch of points, but I'll try to find one of them. I think, definitely the valley for me was, I remember being in Mexico, just trying to get some time away because I was just going through a really difficult emotional kind of mental breakdown. And while I was there, I just was overwhelmed with both grief, sadness, and joy because I was in one of the darkest places ever, but yet I felt like God was walking with me. And it was just it was all of the why me's. It was why me? Why am I the one that has to deal with this and go through this? But then at the same time, why me? Why are you wanting to be close to me in the midst of all this chaos? And, I love Jonah in the Bible. Everybody doesn't get to be Jonah. Jonah went through a lot, but God was there, and I can relate to him.
The book is available now. I Am Restored, How I Lost My Religion But Found My Faith. Lecrae.com, at Lecrae on all socials. Brother, thank you for taking some time and bringing some honesty.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Appreciate you.
Sometimes when you're in the public eye, I think it's really tough to be honest. And it's nice that we're able to sit down and just have an honest conversation. Mm-hmm. I couldn't imagine sometimes struggling with the things and you being out in the public and then having to come out and say, this is what I'm dealing with. I know that there's a lot of celebrities and that who have said things and then they get lambasted about it. Oh, I can't believe that they're doing this, or, oh, what are they trying to do this for publicity? But it's so good to just hear the raw, honest emotions of Lecrae.
Yeah, absolutely. And from his position that he holds in the public eye and being strong enough to be vulnerable with the situation, because I know he's a very private person. So I really do appreciate and respect him stepping outside of that and letting us in and helping us learn and grow and be able to walk that path of restoration along with him.
Thank you for tuning in to an old episode, a past guest of our Why Me Project rerun.
Something that we're starting now because there were so many episodes that we really did love, and they've kind of disappeared from the digital world.
And speaking of digital world, I did a little recon. There are at least 9 different platforms in which you can listen to the Why Me Project podcast.
Okay.
So there's no excuses, but I mean, some of the main ones like Apple Podcast and or Spotify.
And you could always head to our social media accounts to stay up to date, as each and every Wednesday we have a brand new episode for Why Me Project. And you can also let us know if there's someone that you would like to hear on a future episode.
At Why Me Project on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Why Me Project at Outlook.com.